Hands. For centuries, it has been described as a monument of stone, soldiers, emperors, and war. But one of its strangest secrets was not carved into the towers. It was hidden between the bricks. The Great Wall was not held together by stone alone. In some sections, builders used lime mortar strengthened with sticky rice. A humble grain became part of an imperial construction system meant to survive beyond dynasties. And to understand why, we have to enter the wall not as tourists, but as investigators. Because the real mystery is not that rice was used. It is why it worked so well. Long before modern cement, Chinese builders faced a brutal question. How do you make a wall survive mountains? The answer had to resist wind, rain, frost, pressure, erosion, and the weight of history itself. The Great Wall was not a single structure built at one moment. It was a long, evolving frontier. Different dynasties built different walls, using earth, stone, brick, timber, and whatever the landscape allowed. But during the Ming Dynasty, the wall became more massive, more organized, and more permanent. This was not just a wall. It was a military system stretched across dangerous geography. It connected fortresses, signal towers, roads, garrisons, gates, and supply routes into one enormous defensive network. Every brick had to serve a purpose. Every joint had a hold under pressure. The problem was simple to name, but almost impossible to solve: permanence. Stone can crack, brick can crumble, earth can wash away, but the spaces between them decide everything. Mortar is the hidden architecture of a wall. It is the silent force that makes separate pieces act as one. And in parts of ancient Chinese construction, builders discovered that sticky rice changed the behavior of lime. When sticky rice was cooked into a paste, it provided amylopectin, a starch that changed how the mortar behaved. Mixed with lime, that starch helped create a denser, more water-resistant bonding material. It was not magic. It was chemistry, discovered through craft, repetition, and necessity. In a world without modern laboratories, the worksite itself became the experiment. Builders learned from failure. Walls that cracked, towers that shifted, joints that surrendered to rain. And they learned that the right mixture could make brickwork resist time with astonishing force. The Great Wall demanded more than materials. It demanded food, organization, punishment, logistics, and human endurance. Rice was not only nourishment. In this story, it became a resource of empire. To build on this scale, an emperor had to command landscapes as much as people. Kilns fired bricks, quarries cut stone. Lime was burned, slaked, transported, and mixed by hand. Behind every clean line of the wall was a world of smoke, sweat, dust, and exhaustion. The wall may look silent today, but it was born from noise. Hammers, orders, carts, wind, and fear. For soldiers posted here, the wall was not a landmark. It was the edge of the known world. For workers, it was something different, a place where imperial ambition became physical weight. This is why the rice mortar matters. It reveals the wall as a machine of survival and sacrifice. A food that could have filled a bowl was instead transformed into the hidden skeleton of defense. The mixture did something ordinary lime alone could not always do as effectively. It helped the mortar bind tightly, harden compactly, and endure moisture with remarkable stability. The wall's strength came not from one material, but from the relationship between many materials. Brick needed mortar, mortar needed lime needed water, and rice changed the equation. That balance helped builders create masonry that could dry, hold, and resist moisture more effectively. But even the strongest mortar could not protect the wall from every enemy. Time attacks differently than armies. It enters through water, frost, pollution, neglect, and careless repair. Modern conservation work shows that preserving ancient masonry requires compatibility and restraint, not just strength. A wall built with ancient material logic cannot always be saved with modern shortcuts. That is what makes the sticky rice secret so powerful. It was not primitive. It was precise. It belonged to a tradition where builders understood performance before they had the words for molecules. They may not have named amylopectin, but they understood what the mixture could do. And what it could do was turn a fragile joint into a line of endurance. From a distance, the Great Wall looks like a single line across the earth. But up close, it is millions of decisions pressed into brick, lime, rice, and stone. Some decisions were strategic: where to build, where to place towers, where to control movement. Others were chemical: how to make the invisible bond stronger than the visible stone. That hidden bond is why the wall still raises questions more than 600 years later. Was the wall built only to stop enemies, or also to project the idea of impossible control? Its purpose was military, but its message was political. The empire could reshape the horizon, and every horizon it reshaped required human bodies to carry material into places machines could not reach. The rice mortar is therefore not a small detail. It is a doorway into the entire system. It connects agriculture to warfare, kitchens to fortresses, and ordinary life to imperial survival. It shows that monuments are never made from stone alone. They're made from societies. The wall absorbed labor, taxes, food, fear, ambition, and technological knowledge into one monumental line. That is why this ancient mortar still feels modern. It solved the performance problem with local intelligence. It used what the empire could gather, transport, control, and transform. The same grain that fed villages could help hold watchtowers against rain and wind. And once inside the mortar, the rice disappeared from sight, but not from history. This is the paradox of the Great Wall. Its most surprising ingredient is almost invisible. Visitors look for towers, gates, and views. But the secret is often in the seam. The seam is where science, labor, and empire meet. It is where a recipe becomes architecture, and architecture becomes power. But power always leaves a cost behind. Every durable brick also asks who carried it, who mixed it, and who never returned home. The Great Wall survives because it was engineered brilliantly, but also because it consumed human effort relentlessly. Sticky rice mortar does not make that history softer. It makes it more human. It reminds us that the world's greatest monuments often depend on the smallest ingredients. Without the unseen bond, the visible monument could never have held its form for so long. And without the people behind the process, the recipe would have remained only a mixture. The wall was built to divide worlds, but its materials reveal connections: earth, grain, fire, water, and will. That is why the story of sticky rice is not a strange footnote. It is a key. It unlocks a different vision of the Great Wall, not as myth, but as material intelligence. A monument famous for keeping enemies out was partly held together by something meant to sustain life. And perhaps that is the deepest secret of the Great Wall. Even empire depends on the fragile things it tries to control. Long after the builders vanished, the wall kept their knowledge sealed inside its seams. What seems like silence is actually evidence. Evidence of choices made under pressure. The wall was never built only against enemies. It was also built against collapse. Each tower had to stand through seasons that punished every weak joint. Rain would search for openings. Ice would widen cracks. Wind would grind the surface year after year. In that battle, the hidden mortar mattered as much as the visible wall. The sticky rice mixture helped the wall become more than assembled pieces. It became a single resisting body. That is the genius of ancient construction. Strength was often hidden.
The mortar is completely compromised here. It won't hold through the winter rains.
The builders did not need the language of modern science to
Make a note of
observe
see how these have held,
They could see
while these
which
others have
walls
failed.
which
The mixture
mixtures
was
endured,
incorrect on this batch.
and which methods deserved to be repeated. And over time, repetition became tradition. Tradition became technique. Technique became legacy. The wall, then, is not only a military mark. It is a record of accumulated intelligence. Its towers speak of defense. Its bricks speak of labor. Its mortar speaks of invention. The more closely we look, the less the wall seems like a static ruin. It becomes a frozen
Push harder, men! We must finish this section by dusk.
Carrying,
Watch out
stacking, and surviving. That process began far from the final stones, in fields where rice grew under water and sun. Before it became mortar, rice passed through hands that never saw the wall's full length. Then it moved through roads, depots, kitchens, work camps, and military supply chains. By the time it reached the frontier, it was no longer just food. It was strategy. This transformation gives the story its power, ordinary matter becoming monumental history. The wall did not survive because ancient people were mysterious. It survived because skilled builders observed what worked. They understood that durability is not only about hardness. Sometimes it is about balance. Too brittle and a wall breaks. Too weak and it dissolves. Too careless and time enters. The sticky rice lime mixture found a different kind of strength. Compact, adhesive, and enduring. That strength made it useful not only for walls, but for tombs, pagodas, bridges, and temples. Across ancient China, builders used materials in ways that blended practicality with patience. The Great Wall is the most famous witness to that knowledge because it placed the experiment on a continental scale. Here, every successful mixture was tested by mountains, seasons, armies, and centuries. And the sections that survived became proof that ancient innovation could be stronger than expected. Today, scientists can analyze the mortar, but the wall itself had already preserved the result. The discovery does not reduce the wonder. It deepens it, because now the wall is not only vast, it is intimate. It carries the fingerprints of people who solved enormous problems with humble materials. It reminds us that engineering is not always born from abundance. Sometimes it is born from
This is the only way through the mountains.
In the mountains,
we attack
every
at first
mistake
light.
became
It's
expensive.
risky.
Every weakness became
have
dangerous. So the builders learned to make ordinary matter perform extraordinary work. That is why the phrase sticky rice mortar sounds strange until you see the wall still standing. The secret was never only the rice.
The sun sets,
It was the
and
human
the mist
ability
rises.
to notice,
We must
adapt,
secure the
and build
ramparts
beyond
before
a lifetime.
nightfall.
The wall outlived emperors, soldiers, builders, and dynasties, but it still holds traces of their decisions. And in those hidden seams, the Great Wall reveals its final lesson. Even the largest monuments can depend on the smallest things.